Good evening, everyone.
Kavod Arab, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, thank you. Uh, how's the situation out there?
Here in North Miami Beach is I haven't gone outside, but we have Baruch Hashem, we have um, electricity, we have internet. Um,
No flooding?
I No flooding in North Miami Beach
All right, fantastic.
so so far, yes. Baruch Hashem.
Yeah. Okay, so it looks like we're going to Dalet. Maybe Gimel. Yeah, Gimel, I'm sorry. Gimel. All right, so it says the tour over here. Katuv od sham be'agot asheri. It says over there in this book. But tzarich le'asir hatabat mi'al yado mishat netilat yadayim. Right, so this is like the famous, question when it comes to these laws regarding, when a person is wearing a ring. Does he have to remove the ring? So, usually the rings are tight. So, it's usually the water is not getting in there. So says the tour brings this book, Hagot Asheri, and he says there that you have to remove the ring. So says the Bet Yosef, "V'af al pi she'rokach katav she'eno tzarich so, but the Rokach said you don't need to remove the ring. So right away you have a machloket, right? Okay. דהיינו מפני שהוא סובר ששיעור נטילת ידיים לחולין עד פרק אמצעי, right? So you know why that is? Because he holds that we already spoke about this before. We discussed this. How far does a person have to wash his hands? Are we talking about until the end of the fingers or until the wrist? So this rabbi seems to hold that we're talking about the fingers, the joints of the fingers. של אצבעות ואצבעות הם מונחות באצבע למטה. So he says, and the ring is placed on the finger, למטה מהתופק, it's placed below that joint, obviously, right? In other words, it's a part of the hand that you wash. אבל דברי הפוסקים שסוברים שצריך ליטול, but according to the ones who say that you have to, למעלה מהתופק, you have to also watch above that as well, to wash above that. So meaning when you have to go until the wrist, right? More or less. צריך להסיר about אם הם מהודקים. So then you have to remove the ring if it is tight. Uh-huh. Yeah, so this language implies, by the way, that this ring was not on the fingers, it was on the hand itself. Okay, well, that's something unusual for us. Anyway, we'll see how that works. Tanya בתוספתא דמקוואות, right? As we learned in תוספתא מקוואות, פרק ו', השירים והנזמים, אז בטבעות דרפין אינם מחוצצים. So it says over there that when you have jewelry like this, if it's loose, it's not a problem, right? Only when it's tight. So it says, עוצין פירוש מהודקים, right? חוצצין בכתבה ראש פרק תינוקת. So he says, right, that we're talking about something which is tight. So, it hinges on that, whether it's tight or not. ואם תאמר טבעת מהודקת, עמי חייצה. So if you're going to tell me that the ring is tight, then why does it interpose? So he says it should not. Why? Because it's minority of the hand, and also he's not particular. In other words, he wants to leave the ring on. So then why should it be a problem? עליו, הוא כבר תירץ בשם מראש, בשם הרב"ד. So he says, right, the Rosh, the name of the Rabbi, gave the answer. What's the answer? The מקפדת היא להסירה בשעת דישה. That she is particular, right, the woman, to remove it at the time of kneading the dough. שהיא מקפדת בשום פעם, and therefore, since she is, right, she is particular at a certain time, even though she's not particular at the time of the immersion, chaytza, so it does interpose, according to this opinion. So there would be room, by the way, if this is what we're talking about, there definitely would be room to say in our times doesn't apply, because first of all, not every woman is kneading the dough. That's one, right? So you could say if she's not kneading the dough, then she has no problem. And also, there would be another thing, which is that if what about a man, right? Men don't need the dough. So then for them it shouldn't be a problem, only for the women. So we have to see how that comes out, right? A lot of issues going on here with this thing. Okay, so anyway, right, he says פי שאינה מקפדת בשעת נבילה, חי צעד כאן לשנו, ונראה זה אפילו טבעת רפויה צריך להסיר בשעת נטילה. So he says, right, that it seems like you have to also remove even a loose ring when you wash. So this could be the reason is because we're not really, expert on what it means to be loose or not. Or because they shouldn't come to also allow a ring which is tight. So in other words, you should be stringent and not allow any ring. So that's what he concludes here, the Bet Yosef. Which seems clearly that he's stringent about this. But let's see what it says in Shulchan Aruch. Very interesting. I was asked about this already several years ago, a couple of times, about the issue with the ring, And from my recollection, at that time, I told these people that they don't have to take off the ring. But let's see in the Shulchan Aruch what it says. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so it says צריך להסיר הטבעת מן ידו בשעת נטילת ידיים. Right, so says Shulchan Aruch very clearly, right, very simply, you have to remove the ring, right, when you wash your hands. So says the Rama here, ואפילו הוא רפוי, right, even if it's loose, as we said, right, you should be stringent. ואפילו אינו מקפיד עליו בשעת נטילה, even if he's not particular at the time of the washing, הוא מקפיד עליו בשעת עושה מלאכה. Since he's particular at the time where he does the labor, right, of the kneading. שלא יטנפו, right, they shouldn't get dirty. ונהגו קצת להקל אם הוא רפוי, right, so he says in parentheses here, custom is to be lenient if it's loose. אבל יש להחמיר, but it says should be stringent. כי אין לנו בקין איזה מקרה רפוי, so we're not really sure what's called loose, what's called tight. Yeah, okay. So yeah, let's see. So I mean, on the face of it, it seems like he's lenient here. He's stringent. I'm sorry, he's stringent, right? So let's see the Mishnah Berurah, what he says here. Mishnah Berurah. Let's see if he's got something to add to this. Right, so he gets into this over here, the Mishnah Berurah. He says like this, right? He says the Achronim concluded, right? In other words, the later authorities, they concluded regarding this issue that it only applies to a woman. Oh, like I said, right? It really should not apply to a man. Right. So why? Because men don't remove their ring, you know. They don't need challah, they don't do that stuff. Right? אבל איש שאין מסירות בשעות המלאכה, כן הכל הלוש, אין צריך להסיר אותו בשעת הנטילה. Right, so it says the man doesn't need to. Then he goes on, אם אינו רפוי, right, אפילו, even if it's tight, רק אם יש בו אבן טוב, if it has a nice, right, if it has a stone, שגם איש דרכו להקפיד. So he said there, even the man is, particular, right? If there's a stone there, a precious stone. להסיר בשעת, to remove it at the time of נטילה, at the time of the washing. שלא יתלכלך מהמים, אז יש לחוש להסיר משום הציצה. So he says, because, he wants to remove it when he washes, it's too precious, that stone, right, whatever. But the truth is, that nowadays, we're not really worried, as far as I know, about stones getting wet. As far as I don't know. Never heard of this before. I don't think the diamond is going to get damaged, with the, by water. Okay. Anyway, so that's what the Mishnah Berurah says. Okay. All right. So at least we got that much, that we're not really worried about the men, apparently. But the interesting thing is that, what the Mishnah Berurah says here, the Bet Yosef does not say, or the Shulchan Aruch also. They do not say this. And the question is why? The Bet Yosef should have pointed this out. And if he really held that way, he should have said it doesn't apply to men. And also, he should have said that it doesn't apply to women who don't make chalot. So that's also another thing. But he didn't differentiate between one and the other. Okay, that's very interesting. Maybe we should look at the Yalkut Yosef, see what he says about this. I'm very interested to see. Kuf Samech Aleph. Yeah, let's take a look there. Got nothing to lose. Okay. Kuf Samech Aleph. Let's take a look. I'm gonna take off the screen and I'm gonna go to the other screen, my Yalkut Yosef screen. I have it here also on this screen, but forget about it anyway. I'm just not used to it. I should get used to it. I don't know why I'm not used to it, but anyway, it's all good. Oh, okay. I got to it somehow. Somehow I got it. Somehow got it. Go to the Yalkut Yosef. Samech Aleph. Ah, here we are. Okay, so it says like this. אישה שאינה רגילה להסיר את הטבעת מן אצבעת בעת עשיית מרוגה, right, כדומה, מותר לה ליטול right ידה, right? So yeah, see, he pretty much takes the logic that I'm using here. So what is he saying over here? He says that even a woman, right, let's say, for instance, let's say she does make chalot, right? But she doesn't remove her ring. She's not particular, you know? So he says if that's the case, then it's okay, even for a woman. Right? All the more so for a man, he doesn't do it at all. That's one thing, right? He says here. אפילו אם טבעת מהודקת, right? Even if it's tight, ואם יש טבעת אבן יקרה, שתקע ליישר להקפיד. So in other words, the whole point is he's trying to tell you here that it depends on the individual, you know? If that individual, you know, takes it off for some activity that he does, right? Like, you know, kneading dough. So then he has to remove it here also. But if a person doesn't have this issue, whether it's because he doesn't take it off, he doesn't mind, or because because he doesn't, you know, he doesn't do any dough. He doesn't make chalot. He's not the baking type, you know. So then it's okay. So it depends on who you are, you know. So now I see why I was lenient, you know, with this guy who asked me this question because you know this guy was a man, you know, he was you know, he's a businessman. He doesn't make dough, you know what I mean? He makes dough, if you know what I mean. Not the same kind of dough. So that's something else, right? We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that dough. So okay, so you know that's the story. You know, it makes sense. You know, that's bottom line. You know, if you're not particular about this for whatever reason it may be, you're good. That's it. And he also talks here about the nail polish, right? As I said, and he says that's also okay, So if a woman has nail polish, she can wash her hands like that. That's pretty clear, There's no question about that. So it's all good. So the main thing is like this, right? If you're not particular, and it's also not the majority of the hand, so then you don't really have a problem. Since we're here already, you know, let's get into the issue of the cast, right? Somebody who has a broken arm, whatever. Let's see what he says about that. So yeah, here it is. Here we go. Here we are. So it says, right, in Hebrew, cast is called geves. Right? So that's what he's talking about here. וכן מי שיש לו גבס על כל כף יד לאחד, נוטל ידו השנית במצוות מנית. Right. So he says, right, that, like I told you guys yesterday, right, pretty much the same thing. He says, if, you have a cast and it covers your whole hand, right? So then what do? He says you wash the other hand, you eat with that hand. As we said, you can also eat probably with your cast hand as well, because you're not touching the food. So, no, but he says the point over here is this, that if one hand is covered with a cast, so what you do is you wash one hand only, the other hand, and you bless on that netilat yadayim, because after all, you are washing your hands. You're washing one hand only. That's the answer to that question that we talked about yesterday, right? All right, sounds good to me. Okay, very nice. We'll get back to our discussion. We'll get back to the original page. Okay. The original program. Yeah. I'm still not really using my new program, for this class yet, but hopefully we'll get there someday. Again, I'm still not used to it so much, whatever. So a little bit disoriented with it. Anyway, this program is working pretty good. So no problems, Baruch Hashem. Let's go to David. So yeah, this is an interesting one. Right, we already touched on this, right? Which is, when you wash, right? How far do you have to go? Right, until the wrist, until the end of the fingers, as we said, right? What are we talking about? So this is the next topic here. So let's see what he has to say. So, tomorrow night, right, for Yom Kippur, we're going to be washing only until right, the end of the fingers, right? That's it, not the rest of the hand. Right? I don't have to tell you. Obviously, on Yom Kippur, we're not eating, so we're talking about all the other washings that you do, whether it's because you woke up in the morning or you went to the bathroom, etc., etc., etc. Right? So there, you're going to wash only until, right, the end of the fingers. That's halacha. Okay. Here we go. Yeah, we got to see this inside the tour. Shi'ur. Yadayim. Right, so it says here, Shu natilat yadayim l'Rav Alfas kol hayad. So the Rif holds, you got to do the whole hand, right, until the wrist, as we said. Avakaneh shel zerua. V'katav Adonai Rosh Zalzal v'chumay tirahi. So the Rosh says this is too stringent, right? No. And the olam lo nahagu ken. So he says we're not. That's not the custom. He says. Pasaku ad makom hachibur etzbaot dechav yad. So he says right until the end of the fingers, right? So it's a machloket between the Rif and the Rosh. Okay, sounds fair. That's the end of the chapter. So we'll go to Bet Yosef here. Says Bet Yosef, Perek Kol Basar, right? It's over there in this Perek Kol Basar, which is also in Chulin. Says there, Tam Rabbanan, right? The rabbis taught Kiddush Yadayim Beraglaim at the Perek, right? So it says that the Truma. If you're washing for Truma, you gotta go all the way until the wrist. At the Perek, right? Also, so in other words, if you're watching in the temple, the Kohen, it's also until the wrist. Also for Truma, Lechulin ad Perek, right? So what about the what about from mundane foods? So it says right also until the joint, right? The question is which joint, right? Rosh explains the kiddush yadayim b'raglayim ad makom hachibur hayad nekaneh. So Rosh says right, the first two are talking about until the wrist. The truma ad makom hachibur etzbaot. But when it comes to truma, right, talking about until the end of the fingers, al gabi yad in the hand, lechulin ad perek sheni shebetzbaot. But he says when it comes to mundane, the second joint of the fingers, right? In other words, he doesn't even require that much until the end of the fingers. So the conclusion is, right, according to Rabbi Yosef ben Levi, name of Rabbi Yosef ben Levi, the ad perek ben lechulin ben truma. So whether it's mundane or truma, right, we're talking about lechumra, that's halacha, he says. Right, so in other words, we go till the end of the fingers, I think that's what he means to say. Not the middle of the fingers. וכן כתב רבינו יונה, so it says רבינו, פרק אלו דברים over there, in this פרק, שלפירוש זה נוטל שני קשרים משאר אצבעות, וקשר אחד מהגודל. So he says, according to this Perush commentary, whatever, yeah, so he says you wash two parts of the finger, right? In other words, two joints, the first two joints. And when it comes to the thumb, which only has two joints altogether, so then you just do the first joint. So the Rokach says, when it comes to mundane foods, it's enough just to go until until the middle of the finger. But the Rif, the Rif writes this braita, והוא גורס קידוש ידיים ורגליים עד לפרק חלחולין, עד לפרק התרומה, פרק התרומה עד לפרק פרק של רבינו יונה. So the Rif has a different kind of a text over here, and therefore his result is different as well. As we said, he's more stringent about this. So, okay. Anyway, let's see what we got here. So Rabbeinu Yonah explains. והראש פרק אל בשר, also Rosh explains, ופקק הם הקשרים לבסוף האצבעות. So when it says pakak, it's talking about the end of the fingers. ואחי פירושו קידוש. So in other words, just to clarify for you guys, right? We have here three different opinions going on. One is talking about the middle of the finger, right? In other words, it's after the second joint of the finger. Because the finger has three joints, right? If you ever notice. And so we're talking about the first two, which is like similar to my machronim, when after we eat the meal, like that's what we do. So that's what one opinion requires. Then there's the other opinion, which is more stringent, goes until the end of the finger, right? The whole finger. And then you have the most stringent opinion, which is until the wrist. So
So
that's yeah, I'm
you're
sorry.
saying, I'm sorry, you're saying so like the minimum is up until the second knuckle, like you could wash your
It's
whole
not a
hand?
matter, it's not a matter of a minimum, it's a matter of opinions.
No, I'm just saying, like when they're saying the second knuckle, they're saying that that's the least that
Right.
you should wash,
Right.
or
That's
is
like
that
that's like the most lenient opinion.
okay? Right, not what I'm asking. Are they saying that you should only wash there, you can't wash anymore, or that you have to wash at least
That
until
means
there?
that's enough. Yeah, you don't need more than that, right?
Okay, but you could wash your whole hands and it would be okay?
Yeah, you could, but you don't need to.
Okay, what if I wanted to? It's not prohibited to wash
Well,
your whole hand.
if you want, you could take a shower also, wash your whole body, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm just saying, like it's not
Nobody's
like
gonna
it's
stop you.
sorry for this particular part of Rush of Yom Kippur, you're not, or Yom Kippur, you're not allowed to wash your whole hands, nothing like that.
Absolutely right. No, 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 nothing like that. No, no, for sure not.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, good. So, okay, very nice. I'm just gonna send you ladies to the mikveh. That's what I'm gonna do. Forget about this stuff. You know what I mean? Put your whole body in there, and get cleaned up. You know what I mean? That's what I'm gonna tell you to do. Okay, I'm joking. I'm joking. So anyway, right, that's the story there. So let's see how it comes out. So והכי פירושו קידוש ידיים ורגליים עד לפרק חיבור היד והזרוע. Right, so then we have right the last, as we said, right, it was the whole hand, the chulin ad the pakak. So in other words, when it comes to mundane foods, we go until the end of the finger. Sof, it's about the truma ad the perk sof hayad. When it comes to truma, we go till the end of the hand, right, until the wrist. Kimo kiddush, just like with kiddush. What is kiddush, by the way? It's talking about the kohen who washes his hands in the temple, right? It's not the kiddush that we do on Shabbat. Somebody texted me today, one of my converts, and she asks me, she says, Rabbi, do we make kiddush for this Shabbat, because it's Yom Kippur? Good question.
How could we?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, but the truth is, that if you maybe you guys don't know this, but we make kiddush twice. I'm not talking about in the morning. I'm talking about at night. We make kiddush twice. You know, so you know what I'm talking about?
You talking about during the Birkat Hamazon?
No, no. I'm talking about the prayers. The Amidah. There's a kiddush that we do in the Amidah as well. How does it start? Vayichlu hashamayim v'aretz v'chol tzevaam, right, like that. That's the kiddush that we do in the Amidah. So here's the thing, right? Just to explain to you, right, regarding this issue, that kiddush from the Torah, right, does not require a cup of wine. You just have to say something. So then where do we get this idea of making kiddush with wine? The rabbis brought that in. The rabbis decreed you should make kiddush on wine because it's like something. The wine is prominent, so it gives it like a prominence. That's only from the rabbis, but from the Torah, you do fulfill your obligation making kiddush just by saying it. So therefore, if a person is saying, on Shabbat, right, he's saying, the Amidah. Some women, by the way, don't, right? They don't pray Arvit. Some women, right? Probably most, I don't know, right? But the men, they should. I hope they do. So anyway, right? There is a kiddush in there as well. So now coming back to Yom Kippur, right? Even though you're not drinking any wine, but the truth is, you could make kiddush in the prayers. without any wine. So that's what we're talking about, you know. So this when this lady asked me about this regarding the kiddush on Yom Kippur, so the truth is, you know, that she's not going to do it because she's not going to say Amidah, you know, unless she feels like praying, you know. I mean, Arvit, you know what I mean? I don't know, right? She could if she wants, but if you know, because you know, a lot of ladies they pray a lot more on Yom Kippur than they do on a weekday. You know what I mean? Like, you know, they get their siddur, you know, their mahzor out, you know, and they start like, you know, really praying, you know, they get really into it, right? They go to the synagogue even, you know, and stuff like that, right? So, you know, right. So in other words, there is a way to say Kiddush on Yom Kippur. There is, you know, it's just that we can't say it on wine. But you know, what I told her was, you know, you don't really need to do Kiddush because, you know, you're a woman, you know, and you may not be doing Amidah. You know what I mean? I doubt she's doing Amidah, you know. Whatever. Maybe she is, I don't know. One out of 1,000. Okay. So, but anyway, but I told her you have to do Havdalah. Oh, yeah, you have to do Havdalah. It's Yom Kippur, yeah, but you know, when Yom Kippur is done, you have to do Havdalah. So you can have your dinner, right? Whatever. Your Malava Malka there. So that's the way it works on Yom Kippur that falls on Shabbat. Okay, anyway. So getting back to where we were, but this Kiddush is talking about, you know, Kiddush Yadayim, right? Which is, you know, they sanctify the hands, the Kohanim, when they go to the temple to do their Avodah. Yeah, so, you know, by the way, you should know that I think you guys haven't been to Eretz Israel yet. You know, and Jerusalem and the Kotel, you know, there. I mean, that's where the temple was. You know what I mean?
I'm booking a ticket.
Mazal tov. Okay, very good.
I got a booking agent that's working on getting lowest airfare over there for me right now.
All right, very good. You should have a good time there. Enjoy it. It's a very special experience, you know, going to Eretz Israel. Nothing like it. It's not like going to the Bahamas. It's totally different than that.
I have a group of men that want to go and fight with me. We want to fight. We're not going there for a vacation.
So what you think? You think the army will draft you?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Sword of Iron volunteer program has.
Good luck.
Yes, sir.
So can you fire a rifle or not?
I'm very skilled.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a recommendation. No problem.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So anyway, right, as we said, that you know, why do I tell you this? Because when you go to the Kotel, you know, and you're like right next to the Temple Mount, you know, it's like you get an incredible feeling, you know. It's just like, you know, so you can imagine what it was, these Kohanim, you know, that went up there to Temple Mount, you know, to do the service. It's such a tremendous feeling of holiness, you know, being in that area. It's incredible. It's something, you know, you have to experience it. So anyway, right, getting back to what we said. So as we said, right, there's three different opinions that are going on here. Katwa Rabbeinu Yonah be'arosh. So these two wrote, Rabbeinu Yonah and the Rosh. ולא כתב לחומרה דכיוון דאמר עד לפרק ממילא ידענה דהבי לחומרה עד הקנה, right? So וכתב הראש וחומרה יתרה היא. So the Rosh says, right, that this is like too stringent, you know, saying that you have to go all the way until the wrist. ולא נהגו העולם, so it's not the custom like that, he says. Right, that's kind of right. The truth is, you know, now that I remember, when I watch the Ashkenazim, how they wash their hands, they really do like only the fingers, they don't really get into the whole hand. I see, like a lot of Ashkenazim, they just like they do half the hand basically, something like that. Just like what the Rosh is saying over here. Okay, so anyway, it's interesting. So he says, what about the Rambam? What does he say? So he says the Rambam does not define this. That's the thing, It's undefined in the words of the Rambam. It's like plain Jane, You can't really figure out what he's talking about. What about the Rashba? Oh, so he's like the Rif, So in other words, the Rashba is stringent like the Rif. He says that's the halacha. Katav Rabbeinu Yerucham says this rabbi sheken nagu haolam. He says right the custom is to do like the Rif, just the opposite of what the Rosh said. Okay, interesting. So he says, but Yosef also says this, right? That it's proper to be stringent, like the Rif. So he says, you know why? So he says, it's not a big burden, Like, what's the big deal, Just wash the whole hand. What do you got to lose? Okay, interesting. So he says, since it's not really such a big deal, so why shouldn't we do like all opinions, like cover all opinions? Why not? So he says, not any worse than what Rav Chazda said. Right. So what did Rav Chazda say? If you remember, we mentioned this already. So he said, right, that I use a lot of water when I wash my hands, and I'm doing like everything, stringent with this. And they gave me, blessing for that. They blessed me, and from heaven. So you see from there, right? It's a blessing, to do more water, right? To exaggerate a little bit, right? To go all the way to the extreme here. So why not? Don't you want some extreme blessing? Does it bother you? Got nothing to lose. That's what he's saying. But the Rosh says not like that, right? The Rosh says it's too stringent. It's too much. Okay, but the Bit Yosef seems to paskin like the Rif here, pretty much that's what we see here. But not as like an obligation, more like a recommendation, it seems. Why not? Be stringent. Why not? It's got nothing to lose. It's not so hard, very easy. Blah 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 blah. Right. So he says that. I skipped something here. Look what it says. There's something interesting. So it says Bet Yosef, even if you're going to be stringent about this, but he says make a condition. So what does that mean? Make a condition that you're not taking this on as a neder, as an obligation. It's just like optional for you. So he says why? Because let's say it happens that you don't have so much water, you have a limited amount of water. So you won't have to be stringent then, right? So look what it says, incredible, right? It says Bet Yosef, it's proper to be like this with every mitzvah. So what does that mean? That anytime you want to be stringent, about a certain mitzvah, go all the way in the stringency. So I said you should make a condition that you're not taking it on as an obligation. It's a good point. Because otherwise it becomes like a neder, like you took it on. So now you have to be stringent till the end of time.
So you just have to stay neder to keep it from being an obligation?
Right. Yeah, that's what pretty much. Yeah. In other words, saying that I'm not taking it on as an obligation, right? Declare that or whatever. He says that's a proper thing to do. So, this is like, I wouldn't say these things are obligation, all these things, but, it's the proper way to behave, if you're like very particular about doing the mitzvot properly, whatever, right? So this is the way you should go. Okay, interesting. But there is, by the way, a solution for this, that we have. It also has to do with Yom Kippur. Because on Yom Kippur, right, before Yom Kippur starts, and also on Yom Kippur, like even, yeah, whatever. The beginning, right? We do like, Kol Nidre, right? And we do Hatrat Nedarim. So what is this talking about, these things? We're nullifying all our vows, that we made. So why are we doing this? Because we took on all kinds of vows, stringencies, all kinds of things. So we want to nullify them, that we shouldn't be liable for them. So one of the things that we say, when we do this on Yom Kippur, is that even if we took on something, like, if we take on something next year, it shouldn't be a neder. We declare that when we do Hatat Nedarim, when we do Kol Nidrei. So that covers us, that even if we took on something in the future, that this will now nullify that, that because you already declared that it's null and void. Okay, there's a lot to talk about with these things, right? And not so simple. But anyway, that's the way it works. Okay, so let's see the Shulchan Aruch. Let's see how he paskins about this. So here in the Bet Yosef, clearly, right, he's telling you to be stringent, right? Not as an obligation, but as a stringency, like just being on the safe side, whatever, being on the good side, because it's very easy. It's nothing to it, it's a snap. So why not? But the Rosh says not like that, right? The Rosh says no, it's too much. Okay. Let's see Shulchan Aruch. And we're done. I guess we'll stop there. So Shulchan Aruch, Shiur Natilat Yadayim Kol Hayad, right? So it says, how much do you have to wash Ad Kaneh Rishon Yisrael? So he says, yeah, you got to do the whole hand until the wrist. Even some say Ad Makom HaChibur Etzbaot Dechaf Kaf Hayad. Some say it's only the fingers, right? As we said. But so he says it's proper to be stringent, like the first opinion, he says. There you go, right? So in other words, it's not an obligation, but it's proper. It's proper. But you can get away with being lenient, you can get away with it. So yeah, that's pretty much what we saw in the Bet Yosef, same thing. So it depends on how generous you are, whatever, how much water you have, I don't know, whatever, right? Baruch Hashem, we have lots of water. We got no problem with that. So we're all good, we're all set. But on Yom Kippur, as we said, right, we don't have that option, right? You got to do only the fingers. That's it. That's the way it goes. So don't forget. Okay, very good. Thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness. Gemar Chatimat Tova. Let Hashem have an easy fast. And they say, meaningful, right? It should be meaningful fast. So I don't know exactly what that means, but it means that, you're starving to death. I guess that's what it means.
Oh,
That makes it meaningful.
no.
I'm joking. Anyway, Bezrat Hashem, we'll see you next week, right? Sunday. We'll continue. We'll pick it up from there. Bezrat Hashem. Laila Tov, Chazak u'Baruch. Shabbat Shalom.
Kavod Harav, thank you so much. Shabbat shalom.
Easy fast,
God
everyone.
bless. All the best.
Mr. Mikhail.